Well, we're out in the shop. First of all, the 69 Roadrunner here is back home. So is the 71. I did a bunch of stuff to the 71. I'll have to cover that in another video, but it has something to do with that piece of junk on the ground. And we're doing something similar today with this. So this is our 69 Roadrunner. It's got a 383 with 4-speed, and the engine's pretty much completely stock, including that carburetor. That carburetor is bone stock. It is the original to the car, we believe. But it's coming off because it's having issues. It's having a bunch of stuff just not happy on it and just not cooperating. So, here's what's going to go on. This is, for anybody interested, a 4777. It is a 650 double pumper. Pretty good carburetor. It should be all rebuilt, ready to go. It's got the blue gaskets, got everything going for it. New accelerator pumps. Good throttle, linkage, everything on it. So it should be pretty good to go. I've not really dug into this. I bought it as is, as a rebuilt carburetor. I trust the guy I got it from. I should probably just pop a bowl off to check the jets and stuff on it, but he said he put it basically back to factory specs, and I can always change it up a little bit later. So I'm not too worried about it. I know it's going to perform better than that, being the fact that that isn't performing at all right now because it won't even stay running. So, and I got a 1/2-inch spacer, brand new studs, nuts, washers. These are a lot longer than they need to be, but with the thickness of the flange, a washer, and the spacer, it'll be enough. Actually, it leaves a little bit of room if we wanted to do a full 1-inch spacer at one point. We have dyno proof and evidence that spacers do make more power. I did a 440 dyno, and there is hard proof of that, so anybody questioning that, definitely check that out if you want. But yeah, this should be a pretty good carburetor. I have this one off. I had to move the coil to the side. Here's the coil bolts, and here's the I've gotten three studs out of the 4 studs out. The other one's right there. I'm gonna have to do the double nut trick to get that one out. But otherwise, aside from the fact that the linkage is still hooked up, it is loose. So I'm gonna get this linkage off. I need to get the adapter piece on to the new carburetor, and I'm gonna pull these hoses off here, and we should be ready to deal with a carburetor swap pretty soon. Then we need to deal with the fuel line situation. This was a temporary when I was having fuel issues on this carb. And the choke doesn't really want to open on this. I go full throttle and it just barely opens the choke. So this thing needs work. I don't know what exactly all needs to be done to it, but it is the original carburetor, so it's going to stay on the shelf for a while. But yeah, I'll give you guys an update once we get a little bit further along here. Well, update. Hood's closed because I just wanted to check something, and even with that spacer, and I'll show you in a minute, it still clears the hood. Obviously, we got a scoop in the hood, but pretty cool that my air cleaner will still work, which is something I want to keep. We're going to have some issues here. I have the 1/2-inch spacer and a 1-inch open spacer on this just for a mock-up, and it's almost hitting the distributor. And I'm looking at fuel lines here, and I'm realizing how wide it is at this junction here after the bend. It's, that far. And then I went around, and this is definitely not scientific at all, but then I looked at this fuel line I have on a different carb, and it would be a bit shorter. So if I can get one of my other fuel lines to work on here, that'd be a bit shorter. That would bring that hose nipple maybe back to here, say. I could just run the 1-inch open. I really don't want to run double spacer 1.5, and I don't know if you can see. You really can't. I'll take the air cleaner off. but my studs, I could catch enough threads to make that work, but after gaskets, I really don't think I can, because there's no gaskets on it right now. It's just mock-up. But man, that carb looks pretty good on there, so I'm gonna go look through my fuel lines and see if I got a shorter one to swap on there, and I need to grab carb gaskets. And this is the gasket that came off, and I think for the base gasket I actually want to reuse this, because first off, it's in great shape. Second off is actually, hold on a second, I'll just take all this off. Because of the way the intake is designed, I think that gasket is kind of necessary to seal properly. Because you see, you got connection here, here, and here, but then you got this one kind of floating, and this gets a little thin here, and I'd really hate to have a vacuum leak with a typical more open spacer. So I think I'm gonna clean this gasket up a little bit, and it's gonna go back on, because I think it'd just be a little better. It kind of hugs the bore of the intake better and gives a better sealing surface there, because I really don't want to screw this thing up. So I'm going to deal with getting gaskets gathered up. Going to try just the 1 inch and get a shorter fuel line, and we'll see how this thing works. And then I got to set up throttle, and maybe we'll fire this thing up. Well, more progress has been made. I got gaskets on. The 1 inch spacer is on, and the carburetor is tightened down. The throttle linkage is all hooked up. I need to adjust it slightly, but it is hooked up. Got my return spring back in the same location it was in, and the shorter fuel line is on, which still puts it pretty close to the distributor, but it'll work and it'll be okay. And then I come over here to this other car that had a carburetor swap, and if I get a fuel line like that, that puts it a lot further away from the distributor. So that's something I'm going to consider. You'll see more about that later. But got everything hooked up, got my PVC hose. I need to shorten that because it's in the back of the carburetor. Before it was in the front. And then my vacuum advance line is in there. The coil, I need to do something about that. For now, it's just going to kind of be loose, which is, it's okay. It's not ideal. But yeah, it does put it pretty close to the distributor. But if you look here, this is the old fuel line, and that puts it, you know, obviously I'm at a funny angle here. It's a better angle. That puts it basically into the distributor cap, and that's no good, and we don't want that. So with that being said, the only thing left to do is, here's where the fuel line comes up. Unfortunately, I can't quite bridge the gap between there and there, and I don't want to put just some hack job filler piece in there, so I am probably going to go down to the fuel pump and just run a new hose up, which it was rubber hose all the way up to here, and then hard line to the carb to the Edelbrock, or Carter, excuse me. So I think I got some fuel line around, but once we hook up fuel line and I adjust the throttle a little bit, I think we're ready to hear this thing run. So I'm excited about that, and I'll bring you guys back once I get some more stuff done. Well, here we are. The carburetor is on it and it is running. I definitely need to go through and adjust some stuff on it because it's kind of popping through the carb a little bit, but it's sitting here idling pretty smooth. I don't know how well you guys could hear that or not. I'm going to look at the tach here. It's about 1,000, pretty close to 1,000 RPM. So, yeah, I'd say it's overall fairly successful. The only other kind of piece of advice is, I would say, after a car's been sitting for a little while, get some fresh gas. Don't use stuff that you've been having sit around for a while, because it turns yellow and it goes bad at what seems to be basically a record-setting pace these days. So fresh gas goes a long way, and yeah, just make sure you're getting fuel. That's kind of important with a carburetor, I guess. So definitely appreciate everybody watching, and we'll have more stuff with both of these cars coming soon.